Hi there, and welcome to Out There, a Cryptid podcast. I'm Josh, and today is a very special episode. We are hearing from listeners just like you, with their very own stories of run-ins with the paranormal, cryptids, and the unexplained. And if you're a member of our Patreon, you'll get to hear some exclusive paranormal happenings that were at my old apartment. Let's dive in. This is a super special episode because we are celebrating not one, but two huge milestones. Over 1 million downloads and streams of the podcast, and 5 years of Out There. Yup, 5 years. I honestly cannot thank you enough for sticking with me through quiet audio, missed uploads, and long breaks along the way. This podcast started as a passion project, and the fact that it's grown into a community over the last 5 years means the world to me. So, to celebrate, we're doing something extra fun, sharing your stories straight from our Discord. If you've got an encounter or experience you want featured in an episode, you can join the server through the link in our Instagram bio. But, for now, let's get into the good stuff. And here's to 1 million downloads, 5 incredible years, and many more to come. Cheers. We'll get into the listener stories right after this. Our first story was submitted by KQ from DQ on our Discord server. So, I just saw something unique while returning from the movie theater. Looking out the window, I saw something on the side of the road. It was roughly the height of a coyote, but not as skinny as one. It had dark fur, basically all black. It looked hunched over. Now, I would have thought it was a black bear, as I'm from Canada, but the thing that is causing me to think otherwise was its eyes. It had bright emerald green eyes, similar to a cat. It even had pointy, slit pupils like a cat as well. I only saw it in a blink and wish I got a better look, but it just stared at me. Not at the truck or its lights, but its eyes were staring into mine. That's a wild encounter. The detail about the emerald green, the slit pupil eyes, really sets it apart. Most animals around there don't reflect light like that. Bears and coyotes usually have more yellow or white eye shine, so that's odd right away. And the fact it seemed fixated on them, rather than the truck or the lights, makes it feel even more unsettling. Trevor actually brought up a chilling idea on Discord that maybe this was a flesh pedestrian, a shape-shifting entity from folklore that takes on uncanny, almost but not quite natural forms, otherwise known as skinwalkers. The glowing cat-like eyes would definitely fit with that eerie, otherworldly vibe. TJ, on the other hand, suggested something a little different, but just as creepy, that it might be related to the beast of Bray Road. That's the infamous, upright, wolf-like cryptid spotted in Wisconsin, described as having glowing eyes and a hunched, predatory posture. If this was a Canadian cousin, it would explain the bulk, the strange stance, and especially that piercing stare. Whether it was just a cougar crouched in the dark or something out of legend, the idea that its gaze locked onto theirs instead of anything else makes this one of those sightings that sticks with you. Our second story was submitted by Anik over on Discord. I have one story though not in a lot of detail, lol. I don't remember a ton of it, but I remember a good few years ago, I was looking out the window on a very rainy, stormy day, almost night, and I saw a giant bird out the window. And I don't mean giant as in eagle or hawk, something much, much bigger. I'm bad about size, but that thing's wingspan would have to have been 3 times the size of an eagle or anything more common. And it was almost completely black in color. I'm from the South. We have a lot of birds, but I've never seen something so big and dark ever again, or before then. I didn't put 2 and 2 together at the time, but looking back, dude, it was like a mix of Mothman and a Thunderbird. Crazy stuff, bro. Now that's a wild sighting. The sheer size alone makes it insane. 3 times the wingspan of an eagle is so much bigger than anything normally seen in the area. Plus, it's almost completely black in color. It immediately sets it apart from any typical bird in the region, and the timing during a stormy, near-dark evening adds an extra layer of eeriness, since conditions like that often coincide with many cryptid and folklore sightings. It makes me think of legends of giant birds like the Thunderbird, which was, of course, our first ever episode of Out There, and one of my all-time favorites. But Thunderbird has been reported in North America for centuries, often appearing during storms. There's also a slight resemblance to Mothman descriptions, especially the enormous wings and dark coloration. Even if it was a rare or unknown bird, the memory of that moment, enormous, black, and fleeting, is exactly the kind of encounter that sticks with someone. Our third story was submitted by Jackie on Discord. My house / the land it's on have always had some level of strange activity, but this was the hardest to explain. Every time my mom comes to my house, she always opens the door and says, "Hello?" in the exact same way. Same tone, inflection, volume. It would almost seem plausible if she told me that she'd only ever said it once, and every other time was a recording, because she just always sounds exactly the same. I was on the couch in my living room, listening to my husband feeding our infant son in the next room, when I very clearly heard my mom say, "Hello?" I was confused, because she never comes over without calling first. So I got up to greet her, but no one was there. Her car wasn't in the driveway, and our house is set far back into the woods, so we couldn't have heard the neighbors. And it was way too loud and clear to be them anyway. Not to mention, I'd know my mom's voice anywhere. I got super freaked out and called my mom right away. Thankfully, she was totally fine over at her house 20 minutes away. I thought maybe this was a case of time as we know it getting kind of mixed up. Like, if everything that ever has and will happen is layered on top of each other, then maybe something slipped through, or some kind of residual energy from how repetitive the action was. I'll probably never figure it out, but it's still interesting to think about. This one's straight up creepy. The thing that really gets me is how exactly the voice matched. Tone, inflection, volume, like it was a perfect recording of the mom saying hello, over and over. And it happened when the person was alone with the baby and husband in the next room, and no car in the driveway, and the mom nowhere nearby. That alone makes it feel really off. There's a couple ways to think about it. One is residual energy, the idea that something repeated so many times can leave a sort of echo in a space. Another is the weirder time layer theory, where moments kind of stack on each other and sometimes slip through, so you catch a glimpse or hear something that's technically from another time. Could it be something more normal, like the brain playing tricks? Sure, maybe. But the clarity and specificity of the voice makes that feel like a weaker answer. Another thing that comes to mind is a mimic, which has become very famous on TikTok. It is said to be an evil entity that mimics your own voice or your loved ones in order to get your trust. But when you go over to see who is making the voice, horrible things happen. This also leads us to another possible answer, which is this was the mother's doppelganger, which is almost like the evil twin of a person. Whatever it was, it's exactly the kind of thing that sticks with you, makes you double check your doors and wonder what's really happening around when you're alone. Our fourth story was submitted by Zephyr on Discord. Dude, I am so scared, help. So, my little bro is a psychic medium and sees and has contact and stuff with ghosts. We came across a graveyard and my mom was like, "Ooh, this is pretty. Let's stop here and take a look." And so we did. Soon enough, my little bro saw a shadow and we asked them like, "Hey, show us your grave." So my brother said that they walked to one of the graves with their name and stuff. So, yeah. Anyway, then we went into some forest/hill kind of thing. Like the path to it was right next to the graveyard. And from that hill, you had a beautiful look at the church and graveyard. So, as I'm sitting on a bench there, he says, "There's someone standing there." And I was like, "Oh, cool." But then he said, "It's not that positive." So I was like, "Okay, let's just leave." Don't get me wrong, I love the paranormal, obviously, but let's just not personally get too involved in it. Don't want to get attachments. Anyway, he was like staying a little longer and stuff, and after he said that, he said, "Never mind, that person said, hi, run," or something. So we did, because I'm a scared, pathetic loser. A little later, he said something has touched him several times, and it felt like someone wanted to tell him something. Some steps later, he turns to me and goes, "Spirit name we contacted earlier just said something is after me." So we got out of there. I'm buying incense. Have to mention, I filmed a small part of it, and we took some photos on our dad's camera, and he said, "I think there's a person on this picture." We were probably the only living people there. So yeah, I personally don't know, like it's just a person visiting or whatever, but let me know if I should send that photo. Okay, this one is straight up intense. Graveyards are one thing, but having a psychic medium little brother definitely amps it up. The shadow they saw on the grave and then later on the hill, that's the kind of stuff that makes your stomach twist a little. And when he said it wasn't positive, yeah, that's the moment most people would just, nope, right out. But yes, send the picture. These kinds of things are impossible to analyze without seeing the evidence, and sometimes that photo captures details your eyes couldn't catch in the moment. More on the listener stories right after this. Our fifth story was submitted by Nikki, and it's a good one. When I was younger, me and my mother moved in with my dad and his family. For as long as I can remember during the time I was living in that house, I could remember me and my cousins playing with a little girl called Lily. One day, me and my cousins were playing in the hallway when we heard loud banging coming down the stairs to the right of us. And then what sounded like a bomb going off in the kitchen. We ran into the kitchen, and every cupboard was open, and all of the pans and cutlery were laying in the floor. I recently told my parents about this, and I found out that stuff like that had been happening for years. One of the stories that my dad told me that still creeps me out to this day is that one evening in the middle of winter, shortly after the death of my granddad, the activity in the house got more aggressive and frequent. One of my grandmother's friends were visiting, and she told her about what had happened in the house, and she didn't believe her. Immediately after her saying this, all of the power in the house went out, while everyone was downstairs in the living room. The only flashlight in the house was upstairs in my grandmother's bedroom, at the end of a long hallway. My dad needed to go upstairs to find it, and my auntie needed to use the toilet, which was also upstairs. As they were walking upstairs, they felt a gust of cold wind and something running up the stairs after them. This was normal to them though, as like I said, stuff like this used to happen all the time. What was different this time though was, as my dad creeped his head around the corner down the hallway to my grandmother's room, he saw a tall, pitch black shadow in the shape of a person that had unnaturally long limbs looking at them from the doorway of my grandmother's bedroom. They stood at the top of the stairs for a couple of seconds before peeking out again, only for nothing to be there. Therefore, they ran to the bathroom, closing the door behind them. My dad still needed to get the flashlight, though. At this point, my auntie was distraught, begging for my dad not to open the door. However, as my dad opened the door, he could see that there was nothing there. He closed the door again, reassuring my auntie that nothing was there. However, as he opened the door, ready to run for the flashlight, inches away from his face, he saw a mangled, distorted face with no solid features that he could make out looking at him. He slammed the door immediately, passing out and falling back into the room. They stayed up there once my dad came to again, banging on the ceiling for someone to come and help them, all the while hearing scratching and labored breathing right outside the door. But having heard the commotion, they were all too scared. Eventually, the power came back on and they ran back downstairs, and the activity seemed to have stopped for the night. My dad is ex-military, hard as nails, and very stern on lying, and how much he hates it. So, I honestly have no doubt that this is true. Along with this, I've experienced quite a lot as well, that when we go to visit my grandmother, I am no longer surprised when a shadow peeks out from behind a door frame, or I hear my grandfather's voice calling my name over my shoulder. So much more has happened in that house that I can go into, from TVs and lamps falling onto people, to camera anomalies, to monk sightings. Let me know if you want some more stories of my own experiences. Okay, this story gave me goosebumps. The acceleration from playful, unexplainable activity to something truly terrifying, like the tall shadow with unnaturally long limbs and the distorted face, really hits hard. What makes it feel so credible is the context. This is a house where activity had been happening for years, so the family wasn't easily shaken. When someone like a dad who's ex-military and hard as nails describes something that terrified him, it adds a lot of weight to the account. The little details like gusts of cold air, the timing with the blackout, and the fact that the shadow would appear and vanish all hit classic marks for what people describe in high-intensity hauntings. The way the story blends residual activity, intelligent-seeming interactions, and aggressive manifestations makes the house feel like it's layered with multiple kinds of paranormal energy. Even the small reoccurring experiences, like the shadows peeking out, hearing the grandfather's voice, show that the house still has a presence, one that lingers and interacts in subtle ways, as well as dramatic ones. And the fact that objects like TVs and lamps reportedly fall, cameras capturing anomalies, and even monk sightings happening, paints a picture of a place where the unusual isn't just random, it's constant, persistent, and sometimes terrifyingly direct. It's the kind of house that would make anyone pause before going upstairs at night, but also one that clearly leaves a lasting impression on anyone who spends the time there. So, Nikki, please share all of your stories with us. Our sixth story is once again by KQ from DQ on our Discord. Back in 2012, when I was very small, my great-grandmother passed away. I was very young and had little memory about her. I have really two strong memories of her. One, her giving me a gift. Two, seeing her spirit. Basically, to explain my second memory, it was roughly a few months after her passing. I was in my mom's room, sleeping beside her. I must have woken up in the middle of the night because I felt something was off. I turned over to my other side, facing the wall. In front of me, only 2 feet away, was a woman floating. She had a whitely glow and was staring at me. At first, I was shocked, didn't know what I was seeing, but something about her calmed me. She gave me a smile, looking at me sincerely. She mouthed something to me, but I didn't hear what she said. I asked who she was, but she disappeared. In the morning, I told my mom about it. She told me it must have been some dream, but something about this woman was familiar. I knew I recognized her. I can't remember why, but the next day I decided to look at this memory book of my great-grandmother, and I found an old photo of her younger. That's when it hit me. I ran to my mom and explained to her that this was the woman I saw. I remember she held in tears, but she knew I wasn't making jokes, that I was seeing my dead grandmother. That's when my mom said to me that she was our guardian angel, always there to protect us. This might not be a spooky ghost experience that I have experienced, but one that is close to my heart. Now, this one is honestly really touching. There's something about seeing a loved one after they've passed that feels different from the typical scary ghost stories. It's more intimate, protective, and personal. The way the memory is described really gives the sense that it wasn't frightening at all, but comforting. The fact that the next day the child recognized the figure in a photo of their great-grandmother's makes it feel even more real. It's one of those rare experiences that blurs the line between the spiritual and the emotional, where you can't explain it away as a dream because it carries meaning and recognition that only someone personally connected would have. This kind of encounter reminds us that not all paranormal experiences are about fear. Some are about connection, protection, and love, leaving a lasting impression in the best way possible. Our seventh story comes from Gilded Giant 333. I know I'm new, but I had to post this here as soon as I found out about the Discord. Let me begin by saying I'm spiritually sensitive, and have for as long as I can remember been able to sense and see the paranormal. I'm from a small town in rural Texas, and because of that, I'm no stranger to ghost and that like, and most of the time I can ignore the pull on my brain. But there was one experience that sticks with me no matter how long I try to forget it. A couple years ago, I was staying at my grandma's house for part of the summer and couldn't shake the feeling of being watched the whole time I was there, no matter how hard I tried. My grandma's house is pretty old and was owned by a couple people before she bought it, so I'm sure there are some spirits laying there, and thought nothing of that feeling at first, beyond just the normal ghost watcher. That is, until one particular night. It was late. I was taking a shower while my grandmother was outside letting the dogs use the restroom before we laid down for the night. At some point during my shower, I heard footsteps outside of the bathroom, and I figured my grandma had come back inside to grab something before going back out to let the dogs finish. Though, I thought it was strange she left the dogs outside without her. I didn't think much of it. A few minutes go by, and I had more or less forgotten about the footsteps when I heard them again, coming from the same direction, with the same rhythm as before. Now, starting to get that same feeling I normally do when I sense spirits, I stepped out of the shower and began to get ready as fast as I could to go meet up with my grandma outside. Just as I had dried off and begun getting dressed, I heard the footsteps a third time. But this time, they stopped outside the door of the bathroom. I was facing away from the door, towards the mirror, and felt what I swear was a cold hand press into my back and move towards my side, sending off all danger signals and causing my hair to stand up on the back of my neck. As I whipped around to try and see if maybe it was something besides a spirit, I felt a light breeze hit my ear and another chill sent down my back. I rushed to finish dressing and bolted outside to meet my grandmother and tried to tell her about the encounter I had. She didn't believe me, as she's a skeptic, and told me I was probably just paranoid from being inside by myself for so long. I figured maybe she was right and brushed off most of the experience as just my mind playing tricks on me and my oversensitive spiritual senses picking up on nothing. That was until the next morning when I woke up and felt a small pain from my side as I sat up. I went to the bathroom to do my morning routine and lifted my nightshirt to check out what was causing the pain. When I lifted the shirt, I knew for certain that my experience the previous day was real, because on my side that I had felt the chill was a pale and distinct handprint bruise. Still to this day, I shiver to think that that spirit was aggressive and knew I could feel it there. What I like about this story is how it starts with that familiar, maybe it's just my imagination feeling, and then slowly builds until there's no way to shrug it off. The footsteps happening over and over with the same rhythm almost feels like whatever it was wanted to make sure it was noticed. And then, when the cold hand, the breath, and finally waking up with an actual handprint, that takes it out of the realm of nerves or paranoia. It's one thing to feel watched, but it's another thing entirely to walk away with proof on your body. That kind of experience sticks with you because it feels like the spirit wasn't just passing through, it wanted to be acknowledged. The 8th story comes from Discord member Cyrus. Hey guys, so my friend, who we'll call Sam, has been seeing something indistinct outside their house and their grandparents' house, and whatever they were seeing finally stopped and let them see it. Here's how they described it. A 9-foot white humanoid figure. It had almost see-through skin and big purple veins. It had no arms on it and was faceless. It had indents in its face where eyes should have been, and everything was sunken in. It had giant misshapen feet. I saw it standing for 8 seconds before hiding behind a tree. I went back out 6 minutes later to investigate and saw it peeking out of the trees and looking at me curiously. Does anyone have any idea what this could be? This description is intensely unsettling. A 9-foot humanoid, nearly translucent with sunken facial features, no arms, and giant misshapen feet? That's not anything that fits into normal wildlife or even known human phenomena. The fact that it's lingered long enough to be observed and then peeked out again suggests some level of awareness or intelligence. It could fall into the category of cryptids or anomalous entities that people sometimes report near homes and rural areas. Creatures that don't fit into our usual understanding of the natural world. The faceless aspect, combined with the almost see-through skin and purple veins, gives it a very otherworldly or interdimensional vibe. Like it could be a being, not fully part of our reality. I would think this must be some sort of alien species because it really doesn't match any other known cryptid. TJ and Trevor both suggested a hide-behind, which is usually more seen as a shadow person or a dark figure. That does line up with the interpretation of it as a kind of spirit entity manifesting physically, though. The humanoid form, size, and persistent observation lines up with certain paranormal accounts, where an entity seems curious but not overly aggressive. Either way, the combination of scale, physical oddities, and intelligence makes it one of those sightings that sticks with someone. Definitely not something you'd forget after seeing it, even briefly. More on the listener stories, right after this. Our last 3 stories all come from Discord member Snow_color. Does anyone remember the Charlie Charlie game? The one with 2 pencils and paper, with which you summon a ghost? Well, when it was really popular, me and my friend tried it. So this was after a day of school. Me and my friend came to my place. My parents were at work at the time. We decided to do it in the bedroom, but after some time of trying, nothing was happening. We tried using both English and Slavic, even recording. Nothing was captured on the phone. So after nothing happening, we decided to just continue recording, walking around the flat. We were standing in the kitchen in front of a shelf with a TV when my friend said she saw a shadow move quickly from the hallway, which was behind me. Then we suddenly had the feeling to look up at the TV. In the reflection of the TV, we could see a large black figure standing in front of the doorway into the bedroom. It really freaked us out, and we ran scared into the bedroom. The dogs didn't seem to react to the thing. After my friend left, everything just felt fine. Sometime later in the school, one of the lower classes was trying the Charlie game too. My friend wanted to join, but I was relentless. Still went, for fun. We asked if it remembers us. It answered yes. But I'm a bit skeptical about the answer since a lot of kids around were trying to mess with it, so it could have just coincidentally turned yes. Either way, seeing the figure in the reflection was scary. Here's their second story. When it comes to theater, I have only one story, which may or may not count. So, in Slovakia, there are big theaters and culture houses. Culture houses are usually used only for special occasions, but sometimes can have plays. In some towns, they are the only place to have plays, because there aren't theaters in many towns, but usually the plays are really small, mostly made for schools or by schools. So, this story was told to me by my dad, which was told to him by a friend. So, that friend, I think, with some other people, or maybe it was just a group of young volunteers that were helping, can't remember, were at a culture house doing some stuff. And because they were bored or something, they decided to try using a Ouija board that one of them owned. They were sitting on the stage, and let's just say they ended up running out of there because chairs that were on the stage started flying / getting thrown around by an unseen force. Another reason why you should never play with Ouija boards. And here's their third story. So I guess this will be a long one. I decided to finally write about a few stories and put them into one big writing. Sorry. So, the main theme is my family. I realized our dreams. Things that predict a tragedy, and something maybe protecting us. One situation that my dad went through that predicted a tragedy, I wrote in the Cryptid server, so I'm not going to repeat that one, but there was one situation years later. I was probably a kid at the time, and wasn't around when it happened. My dad and mom were talking in the kitchen when suddenly a flower pot fell off the shelf. Now, that wouldn't be too strange if the pot hadn't fallen as if it was thrown, and ended up in the middle of the room. Sometime later, Dad got a call that a family member passed away. My mom had mainly two situations where her dreams predicted something. The second one she forgot and was less connected to what happened, but the first one, not as much. So the first one, Mom had a dream of standing on a hill in front of a hut which belongs to her parents, built by her dad. And suddenly, a light flashed through the windows. After that, she woke up. 2 days later, her brother called about their dad passing away. I just once had a shared dream with my best friend, but from the same POV. Both my parents had dreams in which they talked with relatives that passed away. Mom with her dad, dad with his godmother, hope that's the correct term, but it was in some kind of restaurant setting, and at the surrounding tables were other relatives that passed away. When it comes to situations where something protects us, usually it would be a money thing, like a friend coming in time to talk to my parents out of choosing a bank. Years later, that bank turned out to have been stealing from their customers. With me, I guess I would count a situation from school. To put it short, a blackboard fell on me and a few others in class. It was fully opened, yet somehow the side boards fell under it, holding the blackboard up, so it didn't fully fall on us. Then there was a situation with my dad's brother. He used to be a miner. He never exchanged shifts, but one day his coworker would nag him to exchange with him. He ended up agreeing. The day he was supposed to work, the mine collapsed. Sadly, the coworker passed away in the accident. That's probably all situations when it comes to my family, I guess. Wow, these 3 stories all hit different notes, but they share a common thread of unexplained forces making themselves known in everyday life. The first one, with the Charlie Charlie game, is classic creepy reflection territory. Even the game itself is mostly a meme or urban legend. Seeing that black figure in the TV reflection is exactly the kind of thing that sticks with you. Shadows moving independently, something lingering at the doorway. That's the kind of small but undeniable encounter that makes the hair on your neck stand up, whether it's paranormal or just strange visual tricks. The second story about the culture house and the Ouija board is a reminder that some tools or games people use to summon things often lead to unpredictable and sometimes aggressive manifestations. Flying chairs, objects being thrown, it's the kind of activity that's been reported in hundreds of accounts with Ouija boards. And it's a perfect example of why people often regret trying to interact with forces they don't understand. Even if some of it's heightened by fear, the consistency of these reports across cultures is compelling. The third story, from Snow_Color, is more subtle, but no less fascinating. There's a mix of predictive dreams, protective coincidences, and near misses that hint at forces looking out for them. From flower pots that fall only to signal a tragedy, to narrowly avoiding accidents or financial scams. These experiences blur the line between intuition, premonition, and perhaps some kind of protective influence. What's interesting is how these moments often come in patterns with families, dreams, warnings, or synchronicities that repeat across generations. Taken together, these stories show the spectrum of unexplained experiences, from fleeting shadows and activity, hauntings, to premonitions and protective signs. Each one is different in intensity and style, but all leave a lasting impression on the people who experience them. Now, if you're listening to Patreon, up next I will be telling 2 personal ghost stories that I have that still freak me out whenever I think about them. And if you're not subscribed to our Patreon, head on over. There are different tiers and you get bonus content, the video version of Sasquatching, and ad-free early access to episodes. So, what do you think? Are green-eyed massive felines, 9-foot-tall armless monsters, aggressive and friendly spirits, and shadow figures really out there? Be sure to follow us on Instagram @OutThereCryptids for episode posts, updates, and more. Join our community on Discord, where we dive even deeper into the mysteries we explore here on the podcast. The link can be found on our Instagram. And if you're loving the show, consider supporting us on Patreon. As a patron, you'll get exclusive perks like bonus episodes, early access, and even surprises. See you next week.